Metro News Special Report. I'm Dustin Alexander-Pérez in Los Angeles. After just 2 days of the new U.S. Congressional Command taking the helm in both the House and the Senate, the United States government is still on furlough indefinitely. But how long will this shutdown be, which started the second shutdown of its kind last year and still with us now in the new year? When asked about one of the key issues, the Mexico-U.S. border wall, President Trump told reporters today that he would use executive emergency orders if necessary.
Absolutely, we can call a national emergency because of the security of our country. Absolutely. No, we can do it. I haven't done it. I may do it. But we can call a national emergency and build it very quickly. And it's another way of doing it. But if we can do it through a negotiated process, we're giving that a shot.
President Trump speaking in a news conference with reporters today from the White House Rose Garden. So what does Nancy Pelosi, who just assumed her leadership role 3 days ago, have to say about all this?
As you are aware, we are diligent and persistent in trying to open up government. As I said today on the floor, we will take ideas, good ideas from wherever they come, including the idea of the appropriations bills passed by the Republicans in the United States Senate. They passed 6 bills, 4 of them on the floor with over 90 votes, 2 of them in committee unanimously. And those 6 bills cover 8 agencies, departments of government that could be opened just by the stroke of the pen of the President of the United States. We're not doing a wall. Does anybody have any doubt that we're not doing a wall? So that's it.
Are you worried about backlash? Are you worried about backlash?
No, it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with the wall is an immorality between countries. It's an old way of thinking.
Vital services and departments are closed, like the National Transportation Safety Board, that would normally be at the scene of the deadly church van accident in Florida. Our colleagues at WJXT-TV in Jacksonville filed this report, and for those who are watching, we warn you that the video footage you're about to see is graphic and not suitable for children or sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Tonight, a church congregation in Louisiana is still in shock after 5 of their youngest members were killed in yesterday's fiery crash near Gainesville.
Yeah, they were headed to the happiest place on earth, Walt Disney World. Instead, the worst possible scenario happened. And Joy's here now with more on all 7 people who perished in this wreck. Joy?
Kent, Mary, of the 7 people who died, here they are, the 5 children who all belong to the same church, ranging in age from 9 to 14 years old.
All the children lost in Thursday's fiery crash on I-75 belonged to the same Pentecostal church in Louisiana, including 10-year-old Brianna Deskind. Her grandfather is the church's pastor. Her family tells News4Jax she saved money for a year to go on this Disney trip. The horrific crash turning what would have been a magical trip to Disney World into a heartbreaking tragedy.
Oh, there's people all over the road. Look at that.
It happened when a tractor trailer and car crashed and then jumped the median, slamming into another tractor trailer and a church van filled with the children going to the Magic Kingdom. 5 children perished, along with both semi-truck drivers.
Be with the people that are in these vehicles, Lord.
Witnesses prayed for the victims as they drove by the accident site outside Gainesville. This is the van in which all the children were riding in. On Facebook, one church member wrote, "This is the worst thing that's ever happened to us."
Oh, Father God.
Along with the 5 children who died, 4 other children and 3 adults also traveling in the same van survived with serious injuries. And the 2 semi-truck drivers who died in the crash, 49-year-old Douglas Bolkema is from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and 59-year-old Steve Holland is from West Palm Beach.
Other services such as the TSA, while still operating, everyone that works for the agency is working for free. And there seems to be an epidemic of the blue flu, with hundreds of TSA employees purposely calling in sick from work, leaving their fellow workers to shoulder all the burden.
Some government employees continue to work despite having no idea when they'll receive their next paycheck. Included in that group are TSA agents. Planes continue to take off and land on a regular basis, and agents, pay or no pay, are expected to do their job. Robert Boyd has the story.
Well, the TSA's #1 priority is pretty simple: keep passengers safe. However, if TSA employees aren't getting paid to do this job, does that jeopardize the safety of passengers?
From a distance, it looks like business as usual at Norfolk International Airport security. TSA agents checking IDs, bags, and bodies. But some passengers are still skeptical.
They're not getting paid to do their job, so I feel like their levels of security are going to be lowered, and I don't feel as safe.
Jamie Mansour-Riddle says she would not be flying right now unless she absolutely had to.
It's crucial for these people to get paid, to be able to live their lives and not have to stress about it, and also knowing that they're protecting everyone else's lives.
Last year, the Norfolk International Airport confiscated 22 firearms at security checkpoints. That's more than double 2017. Riddell says it only takes one slip-up to accidentally allow someone or something dangerous on board a plane.
When you have someone who worries about their paycheck, issues at home, financially, it affects everybody's mental capabilities and doing their job properly or efficiently or effectively.
But traveler Emily Robinson has absolutely no concerns about flying during a government shutdown.
I feel like they're still doing their job and everybody has a smile on their face.
Robinson did say she is disappointed and surprised the government would leave these men and women's financial stability in limbo, considering how much responsibility they carry.
Every day that we fly, we need TSA. They're a vital part of our government, and I believe that they should be getting paid even during the shutdown.
While traveler Tom Spielman says you often see the best in people during the most challenging of times. And that's what's taking place at airports across the country.
We appreciate what TSA does do for us in keeping us safe. And the fact that they're not getting paid is even more accolades to them for doing what they're doing.
13 News Now reached out to TSA for comment, but they did not respond. In Norfolk, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now. Officials are urging people to arrive at the airport earlier than normal, due to longer than usual delays because of the staff shortage. With a perspective and some answers on what this entire mess is all about and how it can possibly be sorted, we go to Metro News Washington correspondent Eric Crossley, who joins us on the phone. Eric, what in the world is going on?
Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2019. We're hoping for a better year in a lot of respects, I think, than we had in 18. But yes, the government shutdown, of course, we've had government shutdowns here in Washington many times in the past. So this is not something new, but we're dealing with a different kind of administration, unfortunately, a different kind of president. Let me just touch base. First of all, we just had the report on the TSA. Reassure people that for right now, at least, it seems like the skies are safe. The problem is the longer this shutdown goes on, of course, the more people are going to have to not show up for work as TSA agents because they're not getting paid. One thing that the government has to do, and I think there's going to be some new appropriations and some new changes to the current situation early next week, but they're going to have to appropriate money for certain people like TSA because if we had a large furlough and a large leaving of people because they simply aren't getting paid, they'd have to go earn some money for their families. We're running into big problems because as much as TSA can reassure everybody that everything will be fine, if we lose enough agents, everything won't be fine in that regard. I wanted to talk, Dustin, if I could for a minute, just a little bit about what the president said. And again, today he had a meeting with Nancy Pelosi and with Chuck Schumer. Now, Chuck Schumer, of course, the minority leader in the Senate, Nancy Pelosi, the new House leader, the Speaker of the House, and the third in line, by the way, for the presidency. Keep that in mind for future reference. But Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, was not at the White House. Now, why he wasn't at the White House is beyond comprehension. Unfortunately, Senator McConnell has been pretty much useless for quite a long time as far as getting anything done in Washington. And this is another prime example of just an absolutely pathetic. I mean, the government is shut down. You know, we're facing a crisis situation because of Donald Trump. I mean, he shut this government down. Remember, he took credit for it several weeks ago. We're not going to let that go. He's the one that said if the government shuts down, I take credit for it. So he's taking the credit. which is not credit, of course.
I will shut down the government.
Okay.
The wall, that'll be the one that will be the easiest of all. What do you think, Chuck? Maybe not?
It's called funding the government, Mr. President.
So we're going to see. But I will tell you the wall will get built. We'll see what happens.
But the problem we have right now is, we have a Democratic House, a Republican Senate, and a president who's just a little bit unhinged at this time. So we're facing a huge situation. Now, again, let's reiterate here. President Trump told congressional leaders on Friday he would keep the federal government closed for, quote, now this is from the Washington Post, directly from the White House, closed for months or even years amid a dispute over border wall funding as the White House has scrambled to unify the GOP behind Trump. Now, this shutdown has been going on almost 2 weeks now. This threat of the president, the most recent threat is another step that we haven't really seen much of in recent years, and that's the declaring of a national emergency by the president. Now, this has happened in the past, and we got a quote from Matt Daylock, who's a professor at Washington University's Graduate School and an expert in presidential power. He said that President Trump can indeed declare some kind of national emergency, but what it would allow him to do legally is an entirely different question. So he may be able to declare a national emergency. What he's going to be able to do legally and where he's going to get the money is, of course, several questions come up. Now, any moves like the one Trump teased on Friday would certainly meet with a legal challenge, according to the professor. Very interesting. The courts have stopped presidents from using states of emergency in the past. President Harry Truman tried to nationalize the country's steel industry back in his term of presidency from 49 to 53. And the Supreme Court ruled that President Truman did not have the authority to declare a national emergency. So we're getting into really uncharted territory here. Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island, he's the ranking member on the Senate Armed Services Committee, said the president's national emergency plan would be, quote, a non-starter. Declaring a trumped-up national emergency in order to skirt congressional approval is wrong, he said in a statement on Friday. And another quote, defense spending is for national defense, not for Trump's campaign political wish list. There's absolutely zero evidence and zero substantiation for declaring a national emergency at this time. And it would send the country even further into chaos than what we already are starting 2019.
Well, Eric, the thing that's really sad about this entire thing, if I could just chime in here, is we don't realize the services that we are missing until they're gone, even temporarily, like the NTSB and the situation in Florida.
Well, exactly, and then the National Park Service, another situation, because the President Trump decided to leave many of the parks open, I understand, and so there's trash everywhere, there's absolutely no services anywhere, there's no police protection anywhere in these parks. We've got a situation here. It's absolutely insane to think that all this is going on. It could easily be averted. The president wants to continue to negotiate the ridiculous border wall, which we don't need, by the way. Then fine, but reopen the government. And really, he is hurting himself more than anybody right now, because despite what he thinks about his approval ratings, they are the lowest they've been. He may still have something like an 85% approval rating among Republicans, which is phenomenal. But among the rest of the country, he does not have support. And this shutdown is, again, he owned it. So we can't blame the Democrats on this one. The Democrats have been in power in the House for 2 days now, so 3 days. So the Democrats are not going to take control. It's time for the president to really face reality, and I think Senator Reed said it well. because he stated that the president is just not going to get away with usurping Congress and using presidential powers for a national emergency that doesn't exist. The amazing thing, if people would look, if the Trump supporters, if the people who are so crazy about this border wall would simply look at statistics. Now, this is the Department of Homeland Security from June of 2018. Southwest border apprehension peaked at 1.64 million people in 2000. That's apprehensions at the border, the U.S.-Mexico border in 2000. In 2017, it was 303,916, an 81.5% decline of apprehensions of illegals at the border between 2000 and 2017. Tell me how that's a national emergency, Mr. President.
Well, it's a very good point. An amazing statistics. A quick question, if we can just go back to the TSA agents. So they're working without any pay. Are they going to get? I mean, first of all, I'm hoping someone's keeping track of the hours. And will these TSA agents, are they going to be eligible for any? Will they eventually be paid for these hours once the furlough ends, or no?
The hours they're working at this point, from past experience with shutdowns, we've had shutdowns, as I said before. This is not a brand new thing. It's just there's a lot of different tinges to it, I guess you could say. But everybody should be getting back pay, yes. And I would expect, again, in normal times, but I don't know what to think now, but I would expect that by next week that funding for TSA and even the national parks, we need people in those parks, to take care of them and to prevent crime and to prevent pollution and a destruction of our parks by not having police there. So I would expect next week we're going to have some more emergency action. My hope would be that we reach some kind of a compromise, but the border wall is a dead issue. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats have said it. A lot of moderates have said that too, and even some Republicans have said that. It's a non-issue, and that's what's most frustrating, Dustin, is because, it's not something that's an issue. I just cited statistics. Multiple studies, this is from Business Insider in August, multiple studies using federal and state data have found no suggestion that rising immigration rates lead to more violent crimes. So that's one thing that the president kept saying over and over and over during the campaign, and still talks about the violent criminals. In Texas, research found that native-born residents were most likely to be to commit and be convicted of crimes, while illegal immigrants had a 50% lower conviction rate. Legal immigrants had an 86% lower conviction rate than native-born Texans. That's one example from the state of Texas. So again, the president just keeps saying these statistics over and over and over and lie after lie after lie. At some point, we have to get control back of our country, and the Republicans need to wake up to that, because it's a very dangerous situation. I mean, again, just throwing this out, that declaring a national emergency for absolutely no reason whatsoever, to me is an impeachable offense, and I think there's more that's going to show up over the next week or two as the Mueller team has more releases and does their final report. I would expect by February we'll have a full report, and get ready for all hell to break loose here in Washington. In the meantime, however, I will say this much. The good news is that it appears that the people on disability and Social Security are getting their checks. Now, beyond January, I don't know, but I believe that those folks have been paid. So that's some good news, at least. We will have more breaking on this over the next several days and weeks, because things are going a little wacky here in Washington. Eric Crossley reporting for Metro News, Washington.
And in Los Angeles, this is Dustin Alexander-Pérez. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. This has been a Metro News Special Report.